What's up, guys? Welcome back to a three-camera, four-person panel, the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Ben could not make it to see Glass Onion in the week that it was in theaters. We got Chip as our alternate here, back again for the first time in a couple of months. Um, yeah, this one was a ton of fun. Ben wanted me to give a short rant about Netflix and its limited theater windows. So Netflix,
He's got a
don't do
point.
that next time. There's your that's for Ben. Chip, welcome back to the show. Declan, Max. What do you guys think of Glass Onion? This was a ton of fun.
Mm. I gotta tell you, I gotta tell our audience the most important story. I feel like it encapsulates Glass Onion's fun. Prior to me going to see it, you just randomly text me. My favorite moment in Glass Onion was when Blanc is playing Among Us, and I, of course, took that as like a joke, because like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I go and see it, and like my mind nearly broke when I saw Blanc's first appearance. He's playing Among Us. Like my jaw was on the ground. And I feel like that
I
moment,
also thought that was a groundbreaking cinematic moment.
it was. It
The,
was.
the viral sensation of Among Us.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, it's sort of one of the few pieces of sort of pandemic set media that I thought sort of didn't overdo the fact that it was set in the pandemic and just
Mhm.
sort of existed within that framework. Played a couple jokes about it, and then literally, I mean, almost over conveniently just axed it out of the plot with the well,
With the
it was a breath spray, right?
Yeah.
That-
Yeah. Yeah. It was like implied that like somehow the spray they got was like some sort of antidote or
Also,
something.
just speaking of the pandemic media relevance, Chip, that you bring up, this is a Netflix film. Everyone was watching Netflix at the start of the pandemic.
Tiger
They could have
King.
said Blanc was sitting in his bathtub watching Tiger King. He could have been
Love
watching
is
Squid Game.
blind.
They
Let's
actually
go.
just passed the Tiger King law
Wait,
that they
what?
the big cat law.
Oh yeah, yeah. They passed like
Genuinely,
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
wildlife conservation guys with a wildlife conservation background, actually knew about big cat rescue before Tiger King. So I was like, wait a second, the founder of Big Cat Rescue killed her husband and fed her to a bunch of tigers. Yeah. Anyway, but no, like you said, like they addressed it. It's sort of a happy medium between ignoring it and overplaying it.
Mhm.
And they sort of conveniently axed it from the story in a way that didn't make sense. But who cared? I mean, it's who cares? It's glass. It's Knives Out,
Yeah.
right? It's Daniel Craig with an absurd Caleb Crawdad accent, screwing around, with detective mysteries. Who gives?
Yeah.
Like, so I thought that was good. I mean, look, as with every Knives Out movie so far, the strength has been the sort of ensemble that they put together of these irreverent, creative actors that they just allow to play within their strengths and talents and just run wild. And
Mhm.
they sort of give them, the room to do that and just it's very much a let's throw these people in a room and see what happens kind of experiment. And I always think that tends to work out, right? Because like that's who like it sort of displays a faith in the talent and the individualistic creativity of the actors. And I think that that's what makes Knives Out such because like and to make it short, the whole thing is that everybody's making memes of all right, Knives Out this, cast this, right? That you've all seen on the internet.
Guilty.
Mhm.
And right. And because that's what it is. It's just let's get a bunch of actors in a room and let them be themselves and play the characters they play at a high level and see what happens.
Mhm. Yeah. I gotta like
Yeah,
give.
we get. Sorry, Declan, just real quick. The only sort of gripe that I have about this cast, and I love the performances across the board. Everyone from Daniel Craig down to, Ethan Hawke with a bit part for 30 seconds. You know,
the best actor in that movie, arguably.
Showing up for the breath spray, and that was it. And then he dipped.
Yeah.
The chemistry that Ryan Johnson sort of fell onto in the first film, he's not going to recapture that. That was just pure magic. This was about as damn close as he could get. Um,
Makes me think he could do it a third time, though. That's the thing.
well, he's going to. There's going to be a third film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After this
paid
one,
almost $500 million for 2 sequels. So,
But I also don't think he has to, right? Like,
No, he does. He'll get murdered by the film industry if he doesn't.
I disagree because, like, I think, right, like he captured something magical in the first film, right? Like we know that the first film you probably won't be able to replicate in the same way.
You're right. It was better.
The second film, really, 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 really good, really, really good. But it, when it comes to the chemistry and the and even the storyline to a certain extent, like I don't know what's going on. It's just
Lost my balance there.
it isn't the same, but I also think that like to a certain extent it doesn't matter. Like Ryan Johnson knows that Netflix has paid $500 million to like create these stories, and like that's okay. But he knows that he can kind of do like just a little bit worse than the next one.
I actually disagree. I think this one was better.
Yeah. I gotta give credit from I gotta give credit from a screenwriting perspective. How like again talking about pandemic, I feel like the script does a great job using both the characters and the box itself to say so much about each character we're introduced here. And there are a lot of characters, so that's a difficult thing. And so it was sort of, a good, like, effective, like, explaining who each person is. And that, so, I thought that was cool. I like that part of it,
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this cast of characters because we're sort of heading in that direction right here. New cast across the board except for Daniel Craig and Noah Sagan in a completely different part. Making his appearance as the roommate instead of as a Massachusetts state trooper. I mean, I love Ed Norton. I love Catherine Hahn. Love Leslie Odom Jr., Janelle Monáe. I mean, this whole cast: Dave Bautista, Madeline Klein, Jessica.
Like the cast does not lack. Like it stands up to the first movie.
It's
in a different way, but it stands up.
Now,
Kate
Max,
Hudson is another name I didn't mention.
Yeah, Max, I will say my question is, what to you? Because George and I saw it together.
That's
inappropriate.
Was it not? It was a great experience.
It was a lot of fun.
Really cute of you guys.
It was a lot of fun. And we went to Milford, which is a depressing part of the world. But like I think we both came out and we said like this was at the very least, sort of adjusted for recency bias, appear to the first film. And look, I stand by that. I think it was actually a little bit better. Simply due to the fact that I don't know, I guess I have a bit more of an affinity for the cast members in this one. And I thought it was a more contemporaneous commentary on things that are going on. And part of it is that they couldn't really plan it. Like, I mean, Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, I think, makes it a little bit more of a a contemporary sort of.
All right, but how much would Dave Bautista's Duke Cody love Twitter in the Elon Musk era?
Oh, but
but that's part of the prescience of it, is that they sort of filmed this all before it all happened.
Yeah. Like almost all great art that like speaks so relevantly to the time is like an accident kind of, like you can never fully predict it.
I know, but I'll give them credit for it.
Oh no. Like I do as well. So just the fact that like Ryan Johnson decided to like go for this theme of like billionaire incompetence, and the fact that the world so perfectly gave everyone else this like example to compare it to. I feel like it speaks to the like cleverness and creativity of the script that it could so perfectly coincide with the real world events of like Musk buying Twitter and kind of failing publicly.
I think that's true, Declan, but I also think that like to a certain extent that those conversations had already been happening, and like and that even if Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter and we had seen this movie, that it still would be funny.
Oh yes, 100%.
The timing just ended up working out perfectly, like absolutely perfectly, and it's not something that Rian Johnson could have planned.
Now, all right, now, how about all right, let's adjust for the sort of sociocultural prescience of all of it, and and sort of talk about the machinations of the actual plot that they let out, right? Because I think the mystery was actually a little bit, I think it took a huge risk of becoming over convoluted for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime you get a mystery, it's like that. But and I guess my one real criticism of the film, and this is a slight aside, my one real criticism of the film, which is not limited to this film itself, is broader murder mystery cultural criticism, is that it's such a ripoff, an obvious ripoff of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. Simply because it is the greatest murder mystery that will ever be told. And people can't do better. Clue didn't try to do better. Clue adapted it. There was a Family Guy parody about it, which was the best Family Guy episode of all time, in my opinion.
It was.
It was great.
When George and Chip agree, you know it's true.
Right. It's the like, and so I'm actually not. I guess like, I think if it sort of took a little bit more of an overt sort of spin angle on that story, I think it would have been a little bit better. But it's sort of like, but again, that's my only criticism. I thought it was a stellar film, but the mystery itself, and this is my sort of to sum it up because I've sort of rambled a little bit about it.
No worries.
But the mystery itself, to me, was actually really quite good, and I thought it was sort of a good almost commentary on the sort of, again, another comment on the prescience of it, a good commentary on the sort of necessity to step on others that it takes to get as successful as Edward Norton's successful, quote unquote, as Edward Norton's character did. And I thought they did that in a way that wasn't forced, that wasn't preachy, that was natural, that was accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if we are talking about, slight criticisms, and again, I gave this film 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah, that's deserved.
It's a wonderful, wonderful film. A lot of the second act, and this ties into what you were just saying about the mystery, Chip. A lot of the second act is tied up in flashback.
Yeah, to a little bit of it. Yeah,
it's a crutch for murder mystery. An essential crutch. It's used in basically every mystery that is told. There's flashbacks in the murder mystery that I'm writing right now. It is an essential component, yet still a crutch. And Knives Out used it. I think the longest flashback in that film, and they used flashbacks a lot. The longest one is like 7 or 8 minutes. Yeah. This one, the longest one was like 25 minutes. Just my in-theater estimate.
Honestly, it felt like the entire second act, like to an extent. Not deep.
But again, the reveal of Janelle Monáe's character and the, death that was actually not a death. And then you get what was the other thing I was going to say? With the flashbacks, and I lost it.
Yeah. No, I will say it was a bit of it was a bit of a bold decision, like on paper to have a character have a twin, you know, and almost it feels like that could be like a crutch, but I do feel that they managed to make it feel. I didn't feel like, oh man, this character had a twin. What, like it felt like a real reveal rather than a like crutch, and that's difficult to do, but they pulled it off, you know, like.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Declan.
yeah. I mean, here's and this may be a lazy, film consumer's opinion. Um, but I think that a movie is always entitled to a certain degree of cliches and crutches because it is a movie, right? And I think, if I start disqualifying films for having cliches and crutches, I'm gonna hate every movie and just be like a film.
Every film uses them.
Right, like
Yeah.
a nihilistic, malcontent who's, that's no fun. And I think that this film, yes, it had its crutches, it had its sort of,
It makes
cliches.
them work.
Right, right. I mean, like it doesn't get to a point where you notice until you actually take a critical eye at the film, which the average viewer doesn't, even the intelligent average viewer. And I think even us who are actually thinking about this film on a somewhat detailed level, it's not taking away from our enjoyment. And I think that that's the threshold they have to stay under to make it a quality film. And I think, look, I mean, I don't want to say like I don't want to talk about like, oh, they know exactly how to do their job, because of course they do. But they know how to do their job. And I think that they understood how to keep the story going, and how to stay under that threshold and sort of toe that line in a way that a lot of films don't.
Even presenting an idea like a new revolutionary super fuel, like you wouldn't expect that to be sort of the MacGuffin of the film in the sense of, you know, I don't know, Chekhov's gun, if that's, the key object. You wouldn't expect, first of all, when it's first mentioned, I don't know if you would expect it to play that big of a role. It's just,
Oh yeah.
part of the world, part of what they're going through. It involves a little bit more of a suspension of disbelief than any of the operative devices used in Knives Out. But at the same time, what we've been saying for the last 25 minutes, it works within the world. And I think that that's really the strength of Rian Johnson's writing and directing, is that no matter what he does, and we've seen the strength of his writing and directing with Looper, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Well, Chip hasn't seen Last Jedi.
I've seen the first Jedi though.
Never seen Star Wars.
He picks up the sword. He's like, "That's it. I'm gonna call myself a Jedi," and that's the whole film. It's a short film.
But we've seen that Rian Johnson, he has earned the right as a writer and director to play around a little bit, and he's throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks, and a lot of it sticks. He's earned that as a filmmaker, and he's earned that from us to go along with it as an audience.
I mean, Knives Out one fucking slap, so I give him a lot of leash, right?
Yeah. He's got all the length that you want.
Like, another thing I gotta give credit for like making it feel like, for it working, is like I feel like the fact that I was like okay, what you said, the fact I was okay with the Mona Lisa actually getting burned at the end, like normally I feel like there's a part of me that just feels like, oh, that's terrible to like lose it, but it makes sense on the idea of like making it something that like he could never sweep away, even with all of his like millions, and all that. Like, it's the fact that the film is so coherent that like that came across like a worthwhile thing rather than like some bizarre nihilistic thing is, again, something I appreciate. Like, Yeah.
I mean, look, I find nihilism to be the laziest and least intellectual form of social commentary, which is why I think Rick and Morty as a serious intellectual show is a joke. It's not a nihilistic show. It's actually, or excuse me, show. It's not a nihilistic film. It's quite the opposite. I think that it's a show that the conviction of and ultimately, like, look, it's, I think first and foremost, Knives Out is a comedy. I've always thought that.
It is.
But
It's a
at the
mystery comedy.
very right, exactly. And I think at the very finish, it's a slightly serious commentary that the conviction of human morality overcomes our arbitrary power constructs. And I thought that was pretty powerful when they like Catherine Hahn's character threw her political career away, and I mean probably to say no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And how many people in our society are not willing to say that, right? And so I think it's hopeful. I think it's anti-nihilist. I think it's I think it's a suggestion that people have a little bit of conviction still left in them, even in such a setting where they would have every excuse not to.
Yeah.
So I think, like, again, credit to Ryan Johnson for rejecting nihilism.
I think that we get a lot of that through Blanc, and we should talk about Daniel Craig's second turn as Benoit Blanc.
Oh, yeah.
Should.
Because he,
Yeah.
you've seen, and Chip, you brought up Agatha Christie earlier. You know the cold, calculating detective at the center of almost every murder mystery. Before we recorded this episode, I watched Death on the Nile again, which we did an episode on.
I watched Life on the Nile, actually.
Is that better?
Yeah. No,
Probably.
I watched it in reverse.
I see. I see.
The boat went
Life
backwards
on the Euphrates.
up the river. But you've got sort of this methodical detective character, and Benoit Blanc is very much, an intellectual. He's good at what he does. He knows he's good at what he does. And what we see in both Knives Out and Glass Onion is, regardless of whether he wants to stay as sort of an outside observer, or he even says as much in Knives Out, and like a passive observer of the truth, he is dragged in, regardless of how much he wants to be a part of it or how much he doesn't want to be a part of it. He is pulled in. And I think what we get out of Benoit Blanc in this film is a little bit more of that character leaning into the zaniness of the situation.
Yeah,
because it is bigger, it is a grander, scheme and story and mystery. So he has to go almost, you would think begrudgingly, but you don't really get that from his character, going bigger with how he goes about the mystery.
Yeah, and I think they also leaned into the sort of comedic element of the fact that Daniel Craig is this ultra talented, Caleb Crawdad, Savannah accent detective. You've never seen Office?
Yeah.
Anyway, like it sort of leans
been a
into
murder.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, that's ultimately
It just came out of nowhere. It's like, what the fuck,
dude. That's who he is. He's Caleb Crawdad in like a real movie. But like they sort of lead into the comedic potential for that. Like, right, like what's if you had Dave Bautista's character playing Among Us, that would not be that funny. It would be
no.
But if you had this sort of ultra serious, extremely gifted rural, or like, well, not rural, but like, like sort of Southern detective playing a stupid game that, a bunch of like, Twitter incels played through the entire pandemic. Like, come on, that's hilarious. Like the juxtaposition between the target demographic for Among Us and Benoit Blanc, it to me, it displays a sort of understanding of is that a word? Juxtapository humor that Ryan Johnson gets at such a high level in this film. And that's ultimately the millennial and Gen Z sense of humor, is irony and juxtaposition, right? And I think that that is what makes this film so successful, is that it sort of gets, at a little bit of that and just rips it open and brings it to the forefront of the comedic element of the film. And that is what, to me, makes it so funny, because I'm a Gen Z online idiot. Like, that's what I think is funny.
Also, shout out to the freaking Stephen Sondheim cameo in the Zoom
Yeah.
call. Like, that was the best.
Sondheim and Angela Lansbury both.
Yeah, and Angela Lansbury, of course. Like,
Angela Lansbury. Yeah, no, Declan, I'm going to audition for Assassin soon. One of my local community theaters is doing it. I know you love that show, but
oh my gosh, wait, I'm jealous. Actually,
no, it's a great show, right?
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like, given that, like, it just like, again, another like thing that made the moment almost surreal to watch. It's like, again, my mind just nearly broke seeing both of them on. I didn't know both of them were such fans of Knives Out enough to cameo in it. It's just even on Zoom, but still.
That it's fandom more than, all right, Ryan Johnson coming and saying, all right, Netflix paid me $500 million to do this. I'll pay you a couple $1 million to do it.
Probably,
like a
probably
30-second cameo. I think it's okay.
Probably help, but then again, sometime he's probably all set. He probably wouldn't do something unless he truly wanted to do something. Is what I'll say. I don't know. I gotta look into like John if Ryan Johnson has commented on the Zoom call, because that's again. Just,
all right, we do have to talk about how Ryan Johnson spells his name.
Yeah, we do. It's like. Why would you choose to spell with an I instead of a Y? Like, everyone spells it with a Y.
Ask his parents.
Like, yeah.
It's not his fault.
Well, how old is Ryan Johnson?
He probably should.
Well, he's had about 40 chances to change that. So
we need to call one.
Look, Ryan, first time, long time, change your name.
Once he directed Ozymandias on Breaking Bad, that should have been.
Wait, did he actually
sign that he
actually direct that episode?
Yeah, he directed that episode.
That episode,
I know.
Second best episode of third best episode of TV I've ever seen.
Fantastic.
Behind second is Blackwater.
Oh, yeah.
The first is The first is the mid-season finale of season 4 of The Walking Dead, which is the best episode I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh my God.
That show is terrible, but they really snapped on that one.
Just that one episode.
Yeah, they're like, look, the rest of the show is gonna suck, but this one episode, we're gonna
just go all out, much like Glass Onion. Not actually, no, and that does not connect it whatsoever. Never mind.
All right, we do have to talk about the sort of understated sort of sociological rage that goes into the destruction of property at the end of, well, not destruction, but
it is exactly that.
I have no, like, we get to a moment where our true protagonist, in my has no more, feels like she has no more recourse but to just smash, right? And ultimately it inspires. And I think I think that's I just think we could sort of talk about that.
That moment,
what the significance of that is.
Yeah, and the background when Blanc is basically calling Miles Braun just so dumb for not only, getting caught by Duke in killing Cassandra Brand, but by killing Duke with pineapple juice.
Yeah. That was the one twist that I saw coming. Like, I was like, oh, he said he doesn't do pineapple. No. He said he didn't do pineapple. He probably died because of an allergic reaction to pineapple. That was I presumed that he had pineapple in his drink. It wasn't intentionally put in there, but it was in there, and it was like
so yeah, you get a moment where Helen Brand, Cassandra Brand's twin sister, Janelle Monáe, is it?
Both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get sort of this almost cathartic yet quiet rage where she's just going around and smashing everything in that big, great room in the Glass Onion. And you're absolutely right, Chip, that it inspires both, you know, Miles to in a negative way to sort of go above and beyond where he had been. You know, he had sort of been sort of reserved, calm, cool, and collected, saying words that aren't really words throughout the entire film. But then you get everyone else, you know, Catherine Hahn and Kate Hudson and Leslie Odom Jr. and
Forgot he. I love him. Glad he's reading. I love Hamilton, but
they turn on Miles, and part of that is seeing the Mona Lisa burned, and they're like, "Oh, that will, you know, destroy Miles Braun's legacy. We can't be tied to him. We're going to turn on him."
I agree. That painting is overrated.
Yeah.
Well,
Like they talk about her expression following you. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's the same. Okay.
It's not her expression following you. It's the eyes.
I'm sick of the ultra wealthy lying to us about paintings. Okay, they have been lying to us about the value of art for generations. Okay, and I'm
Fun
sick.
fact: with some of the money that Rian Johnson got for this film from Netflix, he got the real Mona Lisa, and that was a practical effect. That wasn't CGI.
That was the real Mona Lisa?
No.
I was gonna say I need to sue the Louvre for irresponsible handling of the Mona Lisa. They gave it to Netflix. They gave it to Netflix, the channel that made Stranger Things, the fucking streaming service that made Stranger Things season 2. They gave the Mona Lisa to.
You know,
I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them with. What's a non-valuable item? I wouldn't trust them with a non-valuable item.
You with my trash from lunch.
You wouldn't trust him with a fungible token.
No, I wouldn't trust him with a non-fungible token, of which I have many. I have one that has a dog that's shooting hoops. I spent $16 billion on it. Worth it. Every penny.
The thing
NFTs are not a bubble, except
everyone's gonna buy my $16 billion picture of a dog.
I'm just saying. When you look at all the trade throughout history, right? You look at gold, you look at resources. Nothing has ever been more valuable than this picture of a dog dunking a basketball.
I'm genuinely surprised Rian Johnson didn't mention. Did he mention crypto much in the? No. Okay, no.
No, but that's definitely going to be in the next one. It's going to be really funny because crypto is really stupid.
Yeah. I'm surprised, bro.
NFTs are the dumbest thing anybody's ever done in history.
I'm surprised
people have invaded Russia in the winter
NFTs as his thing.
No,
I mean,
he's probably
the thing about Knives Out and the thing about Glass Onion is that, and we've touched on this a lot, they're a commentary. And I think they are a reflection of the world we live in through the lens of a murder mystery, through a comedic lens, where we're sort of seeing a reflection that we can both poke fun at and, you know, take away, you know, honest truth. And I think that, again, that's one of the strengths of Johnson's writing and directing, that he's able to make these, you know, analyses of the 21st century, of, you know, living in 2022, what have you, and we sort of take it as entertainment because the writing is so strong to provide it through subtext. It's blatant at some points, but the subtext of his script for this film and of his previous with Knives Out just allow us to sort of ingrain or have the message ingrained in us without, say, in a movie like Don't Look Up, and I loved Don't Look Up, screaming the message at our face.
Don't look up, like in terms of subtlety,
people looked up,
like Don't Look Up was a meteor flying straight to Earth.
Yeah, not to look at it.
To Knives Out. If you compare,
I mean, look, Here, I will actually say about Don't Look Up is that it's sort of like this self-flating, everybody's better than everybody else while we let the world burn kind of thing. I didn't like it. But Knives Out is really good because it's just not that.
I don't think that's controversial to say.
Yeah.
Well, I hated Don't Look Up because a lot of people I don't like liked it.
Yeah, honestly, I respect that.
It's called being a lazy contrarian. That's why I've never seen Star Wars. Because I like disagreeing with people and I don't like making an effort. So
Hell yeah, baby.
You suck. That's what I said.
yeah, well, it's a lot of people have seen it, and too many.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Glass Onion? I think we can just about call it here.
Yeah.
No, I will say one more thing. The sort of symbolism of the what are you doing? Okay, the sort of symbolism that comes in within a glass onion, right? Of a
Nice.
of a thing that is supposed to be multifaceted and complicated, that isn't particularly complicated and is extremely transparent. I thought was sort of an interesting commentary on the fact that, like, a lot of people will talk about these quote unquote complex issues that aren't actually that complicated as super complicated. I think the glass onion is sort of an interesting paradigm for sociology in general, because a lot of over intelligent people will overthink everything. When look, the fact this movie's not complicated. Miles Braun is an idiot and a piece of shit, and he takes ideas from people. It's not hard. But like you're like, oh, these layers of sort of business and the intricacies of competitive economy and ideas and all. No, it's not that hard. It's just a fucking asshole.
And coming off of Knives Out, which is so layered. It is a very complex story, not just in comparison to Glass Onion. It is a complex story, right?
It's a simply complex one, and that's where the Glass Onion.
There's lots of things going on in Knives Out. In Glass Onion, it upends everything. It's just like, oh yeah, you thought this? No, well, fuck you, because it's got 20 different other directions.
But it's really only one different direction. That's this guy steals ideas from people.
Exactly, and
it
does.
Anybody with a 43 IQ could understand it.
Yeah,
but the idea of a glass onion, glass being transparent and an onion being layered,
right?
That metaphor is the only thing that really slaps you in the face in this film.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Catherine Hahn has not slapped me in the face yet.
What?
Yeah.
On that note, Declan, anything left to say? No? Yes?
No, go see it. You'll be
Yeah.
able to see it on Netflix soon, but if you're still somehow able to see it in theater, it's worth seeing there as well.
It's not in theaters anymore. I don't know why you would say that.
I like if
Declan, stop
Netflix,
spreading misinformation to the public.
I don't know.
So I'm going to close this one by quoting Don Johnson from the film Knives Out. Who the fuck is that?
That's my friend
That's
from the internet.
Jesus. That's Jesus.
What's up, boss? Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
The whole time. I've been making meta commentary. It's just unaudible to the human ear.
Inaudible.
Wow.
I respect
good.
it.
Very good.
So pitch it down like 30 or 40 hertz. You'll hear everything I'm saying.
Sweet. Our really well-paid editor will be.
You heard the man.
He speaks because of his divinity. He speaks above the frequency of a normal person.
That's exactly what
I'm actually not convinced he's actually here. There's like a 20% chance I made him up.
Oh shit! Well, there you go.
This is sort of a, oh my god, you guys can see him too sort of moment for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like me when I saw Ethan Hawke in Glass Onion.
That's good. Yeah.
But
He collected a fat check for doing nothing, so good for him.
yeah, Glass Onion. It left theaters after a week. That's why Ben's not here tonight. Ben's really excited to see this movie. I know that.
Ben hated it. Ben and I were wandering around Georgetown until like 3 a.m. last night.
All right. Yeah, it's streaming on Netflix December 23rd. You can enjoy it over Christmas weekend, Christmas break, if you're, you know, you
Or
go to school,
Hanukkah.
whatever.
You can celebrate Hanukkah.
Anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semite. Oh, or Kwanzaa.
Don't
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah. Um,
Winter holidays.
happy holiday season.
Amen.
All right, we are off next week, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're talking about a new David Harbour Christmas movie. I think you know.
Oh God, it looks so good.
It's
Strange.
fantastic. It's so much fun. All right, we'll see you in a couple weeks for Violent Night. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.